Hello, I'm the Groundhog83 and welcome to episode 3 of Civilization 3 How to Produce a Mod. Uh, I've been showing you how I'm going to produce a mod or scenario based on World War II in Europe. And I left off by explaining why I chose one map over the map that I initially started with. And the map I initially started with was just too big, and it created what I think would be playability issues, which is lots of load time. And if there's too much load time, somebody isn't going to play the scenario. This was a 300 by 240, and that's too big. The base maps with Civ3 go as big as 160 by 160, and I actually have a map that's 180 by 180 squares. So this is still a little bigger than I want, but it was really the best map showing everything that I wanted. I also didn't cover where I got the map from, and I got the map from a website called Civ Fanatics. Alright, and this is where I got a lot of the stuff that I'm going to use in the mod that I'm going to create, and that was in Civ Fanatics, and it's www.civfanatics.com, covered right here. And it's the Civilization Fanatics Center. It covers everything from the latest version of Civilization games, Civilization 5, it's got Civilization 4, Civ 4 Colonization, Civilization Revolution. There's Civ 3. Goes as far back as the original Civ, Civilization 1, which I've never played. I did play Civilization 2, and the latest version I have is Civilization 3. And to get the stuff that I got for this mod, I went to the download section, and then you'll notice it also, this actually already has completed scenarios and completed mod packs, and you can download these and you can get some of the stuff you need for your own scenario or modification. And it's also got graphics, units, user created maps, and I think I got mine through this particular map through the user created maps section. I actually don't remember. Alright, and that's too bad, because something I have failed to do is to create a README file that updates and credits people for the work they've done and what I'm using of theirs. You have to keep in mind that once it's in here, people are grabbing your stuff and you really don't have ownership as to how they use it. So I figure that I can use it because if they posted it here, they posted it for public use. Alright, that's one way to access the stuff that I use in this modification, and there is another way that you can access it, I'm pretty certain. That's through the forums. Now if I can find the forums section. Oh, it appears that's going a little slow. Yep, at the top of the page there's a forums section. And once again, it has a different Civilization game series. You scroll down to Civilization 3. It's got a creation and customization form, and then it has subforums. Again, you'll see the same things right here. So alternatively, there's two different ways to access it. And if you go to user created maps, maybe we can see where I got the map I used. I wonder if this is it. Big Fatty 300. No, this isn't it. This is it's Europe to America, but this is North and South America, and that's what's there. This is probably better for a colonization type modification or scenario. So that isn't the one that I used, but you can see how to get there and what's available on this website. Very good website, and this is what I've used to get a lot of the stuff that you're going to see. And I'll take note of that. I've criticized myself. I'll try to create a README file and credit individuals for the work they've done and what I've used in this modification as I go along. So with that being said, we'll start a file and we're going to give credit to Civ Fanatics for the work that they've done. So readme, and then we'll special thanks to Civ Fanatics. Their download forms and support were instrumental in the creation of this modification. Alright, and then we'll save it. And we're going to actually save it where the game's actually located, or where this scenario is actually going to be located. Program files, Steam, Steam apps, common, Sid Meier's Civilization 3 complete, conquests, scenarios, and this is called World War II Europe, and we'll save it right there. So there we go. We have the start of a README file, which I have failed to do to this point, and that's unfortunate. That's on me. So, and there we go. Civilization form. Alright. So, I left off explaining why I chose a 180-180 map of Europe to America over this massive 300 by 240. Alright, and the first thing that I really did while creating this modification is decide what civilizations I wanted to include. Alright, and I wanted the full amount, the maximum amount that would be allowed, and that's 31. Okay, I wanted 31 civilizations for use. And I didn't want to start in 1939, because everyone starts in 1939 with the World War II modifications or the World War II scenarios. I wanted to start in 1936. Why 1936 as opposed to 1939? Well, in 1936, this is when Hitler reoccupied the Rhineland, which was a territory on the border between France and Germany. It was in Germany on the border with France, near the Rhine River, that was off limits according to the treaty that ended the First World War. And if Germany were to send troops or reoccupy the Rhineland, it would be considered an act to disturb the peace of the world. And Hitler did it. Hitler did it on March 7th, 1936, and it is kind of seen as Hitler's first steps in basically creating his vision of Europe based on Lebensraum, all right, which is basically expansion and military conquest to create living room for the Germans. So I wanted to start in 1936, in March 1936, based on this historical event. And 1936 is different than 1939, because no one's done a 1936, at least as far as I can tell. And it's kind of a prelude to the war, and there's still a lot of civilizations left at this time. As you went further and further into the war, the ground's occupied by one or two or three major powers, and there's less and less civilizations that can be used, and I wanted the full maximum amount of 31 civilizations. Alright, so that worked in the favor of 1936 as a starting point as well. It also allows you to build up your things, your industry, your troops, your army before you were to start the war, because you're starting at peace, really. So it allows you to do that. And it also allows for some more interesting game mechanics. Like, Germany might not choose to take over Austria. all right, or Czechoslovakia. They might choose to ally with them instead and then invade the Soviet Union. Or maybe you'll see strange things like the Soviet Union and Germany allying, becoming allies. So it creates some more interesting dynamics because it allows a full range of alliances and enemies to really come to bear. All right, the main focus would still be to, well, conquest and domination, but it allows a more fluid, more fluid dynamic. I would say it allows some more interesting gameplay based on these alliances. Now, as I move forward and probably create a 1939, a 1941, and maybe even a 1944 scenario, some of the civilizations would change, and the locked alliances would change to reflect historical accuracy. But 1936, really, there's only three or four alliances that we would have. Germany would be the sole partner in the Axis. We'd probably ally Britain and France as the allies, and then we would probably have the Soviet Russia as a sole partner in the Comintern, or the Soviets, and then we would also lock two more alliances, Nationalist Spain and Republican Spain at war. Nationalist Spain and Republican Spain being the sole members of that alliance, and we would do that to lock them in war. Now, why Nationalist Spain and Republican Spain? Well, the Spanish Civil War started in July 1936. Now, granted, that isn't March. Granted, it isn't March, but if you're going to start in 1936, you can also add this as a part of the 1936 scenario as well, which is the Spanish Civil War, which the European powers such as Britain, France, Germany, even Soviet Russia, and Italy all took a very keen interest in. And if you allow somebody to play Republican Spain or Nationalist Spain, well, it adds something else to the game. So I think a European campaign, a World War II mod starting in 1936, is really the best idea as opposed to 1939. Another reason I came up with 1936 as opposed to 1939 is that if you start in March 1936 and you put the turns in the game to weeks, the base unit of time, which is located under scenario properties, under scenario, and basically scenario, and then you put it into one turn each, you can do the same thing as in vanilla Civilization 3, the original game, and have 540 turns, keeping the weeks and the time scale at, well, basically every turn is 1 week in gameplay, and you'll end in 1947, which is basically when I want the game to end anyway. So 540 turns, we can do a tech tree based on 83 techs, which is a standard, and we've simplified a lot of stuff, and we all did it by starting in 1936 in week 9 on March 7th, 1936, based off a actual historical event of what could be conceived as German aggression. So, or the start of German aggression on the build-up to World War II. And so that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.